The following presentation is a LouTube production.
Good morning. Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Hey, good morning. Live for you on LouTube today. Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou. Live. Yeah, thanks for watching. Your games, so talking about we didn't need you and we didn't want you. I stood up for you. Now you owe Uncle Lou. Look at this vein in my neck, sir. Fox, pack stuff, get out of Athens. That's it. It's not working out. 9 years is long enough. This so-called experiment, whatever it is, you got these people in Athens tricked into thinking you're a good basketball coach. No, that's it. I've had it. Everybody else has had it. It's time for you to pack your stuff and go, sir. This is getting absolutely ridiculous now. Ridiculous. What are we? We're 1-6 in the last 7 games. We've won 1 game since January 20th. Congratulations. A miracle win over Florida. Oh my God! Hey, Voltard! Spend another offseason talking about that Hail Mary! Whee! Woo! How about him dogs, son? Hey, listen, just like Uncle Lou told you, Georgia too much for the Florida Gators this year. You guys just don't have the Jimmies, or the Joes to keep up with my Georgia Bulldogs. Tell me, if you can read this with a straight face and not laugh. What? Win the East? Hey. Okay, look. Now, Mustang. Listen, Uncle Lou. Listen. Listen to Uncle Lou. Hold on a second. Lou, you have a watermelon head. Hold on a second. No, I'm not holding on a second, sir. You've had since last Thursday to figure out what you wanted to say when you called up today, and the best thing you can think of to do is to call up and stutter and drool all over yourself by saying the same watermelon head joke 2 times in a row, rustling around a bunch of papers, and then saying, oh, wait a minute, wait, hold on, wait, Lou. Oh, no, Lou, hold on, no, wait, Lou, while I say this same joke again. Now, are you ready now?
I'm ready now. Are you going to listen to me?
Go.
You look like a freaking watermelon.
That's the same joke. That's the 3rd time now we've heard the same one. Do you have something new, or is it going to be the same watermelon joke again?
Call Lou to be on the show. 706-510-6817. That's 706-510-6817. And now, here is your host, Uncle Lou.
Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also, and too, in addition to that as well, Uncle Lou live, I think this is episode 17 or 18. We do this show every Monday and Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern. We talk college sports mostly, with an emphasis on football, but we talk it all. Today we have a guest on at the beginning of the show. We have a fan of the South Carolina Gamecocks, so he's going to join us here in just a second. And we're going to do the usual when we have these people on. We'll get him to wrap up last season for us, talk a little bit about the recruiting class they had in the off season. South Carolina also had their spring game this past weekend on Saturday. I left a note for you guys about that down in the scroll along the bottom of the screen for your enjoyment. And then we'll pull up the 2018 schedule, take a look at that. We'll ask him what he thinks about some of the games on there and try to get an idea of what South Carolina fans think their record might be for 2018, where they might finish in the East and in the SEC, and what type of expectations they have. After that, I'll talk just a few minutes about the Final Four, which of course was this past weekend. I made my official picks last week on the show, so we'll see how I did. And then we'll take a look at the championship game, which is tonight, right? And we'll see if I still have a chance based on who I picked to win over the weekend. And then, of course, your phone calls, which is the highlight of y'all's day. You guys, I know you guys have been sitting around doing nothing since last Thursday, except thinking about what you're going to say to Uncle Lou when you call in today. So I'm really looking forward to it. We really need more 5-star callers. So far, Ryan S. is the only one. And, I was thinking maybe we'll do some type of a vote once a month or something, and we'll award 5-star caller status to one caller a month, which would make Ryan S. the winner for March. We're just now starting April, so we'll take these next few weeks, see who can step up to the plate with the phone calls, and at the end of April, some lucky viewer, lucky listener, lucky caller will be awarded the prestigious Uncle Lou Live 5-star caller status, which of course comes with your very own personalized Uncle Lou t-shirt, which is amazing. But anyway, I've wasted almost enough time, and I'm having trouble figuring out a way to waste any more. So let's go ahead and bring on Glenn. He is, like I mentioned, a South Carolina fan, and he's going to walk us through some things for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Glenn, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Lou. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. I really appreciate you coming on. I say this every show when I have somebody on, but I'm going to say it again. I love having fans on from other teams to get an idea and a perspective of what other fan bases are thinking in terms of their particular team. And I know not every fan of South Carolina, or every fan of any team for that matter, feels exactly the same way. But I'm able to get a general idea of what sort of feelings a fan base has about a particular team, and I usually learn something about that team too. So I really appreciate you taking the time today to come on. We arranged this last week, and you confirmed with me this morning, and so I just wanted to start off by thanking you and telling you that I really appreciate you coming on.
Ain't no problem, man. Glad to do it.
All right, well, I want to spend just a couple of minutes wrapping up 2017, and let me just say first, sort of, I sort of had an up down sort of year in terms of my feelings about South Carolina. I was kind of low on them in the preseason. And then I was a little bit impressed at the beginning of the year, but then Deebo Samuel goes down, and I'm like, And then you lose to Kentucky, which I don't have to tell you, every South Carolina fan I've talked to is embarrassed about that because it was the fourth year in a row, I think. But then in the second half of the season, I thought you guys really started looking good. I think you might have played one of your best games of the year, I think, against Georgia. I know it wasn't exactly a close game, but you guys gave us a better game really than any other team outside of Auburn and our playoff and national title game. We were beating most teams by 30 and 40 points. I think we ended up beating you by 10 or 14 or something like that. And so I was really high on you guys towards the end of the year, but then the Clemson game happened, and that was a head scratcher. I actually picked you guys to beat Clemson, and I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but it was really an embarrassing performance, I think, from South Carolina. I'm an SEC homer, but that's not why I picked South Carolina to win. I thought South Carolina was getting hot at the right time, and I really thought you guys could give Clemson a game, and you really just didn't show up. Then you turn around in your bowl game and beat one of the best defenses in America, get you a victory over Michigan. So from an outsider's perspective, it was sort of up and down, I think, for South Carolina. But tell us sort of how you felt about last season as it went along.
Really, the season altogether was an up and down season, to be honest with you. When we first started out, the first two games, it looked like South Carolina's offense really it was really on point. And then, of course, the Kentucky game, Deebo, got injured, and it really hurt. Like, the whole stadium, I remember watching that game, the whole stadium kind of went quiet. It was I wouldn't say we was a one-man team, but it was a very weird night on that night, and throughout the season, with Deebo getting injured, I think it really grew up our wide receivers. To be honest, it grew up with Brian Edwards, it grew up with Shy Smith and Nortrey Smith, and it showed that it made Jay really understand how to throw to different receivers than just Deebo all the time, because you can't throw to just one receiver in this conference. Everybody knows it. They'll two-man you, and they'll just ruin your offense. And you have got to spread the ball around to your wide receivers. But the Kentucky game was a very weird game. Texas A&M, that was another weird game for us. I thought we had that game, and our offensive coordinator, Kurt Roper, he was a very conservative play caller in that game, and with Texas A&M, with how many fans that was there that night in their stadium, you got to throw live bullets. You got to throw it. You got to be an aggressive offense facing them. But altogether, Uncle Lou, really, I think we had a very good year. Coming from 6-6 to 9-4, I think is a very good year. The Clemson game, it is what it is. They got it going on right now, man, and you can't say anything about it. They've had our numbers for 4 years now, and it's a tough loss. Everybody knows that Carolina fans, we can't stand Clemson, and vice versa. But they've had our number, and it's going to be an interesting season this year.
Yeah, I think it was a huge benefit to you guys that you were able to find a way to win that bowl game, because it's not just that you lost to Clemson. And look, as a Georgia fan, I've been on those sides of games too. 2015, Alabama comes to Athens. You know, we really thought that was our year to give Alabama a game. Now, had Georgia lost that game by, you know, a touchdown or something like that, I don't think very many fans would have been upset, but we just got absolutely blown out, and it seemed like we just weren't even in the same league with Alabama, and that's sort of what it looked like in that South Carolina Clemson game. And that's the kind of loss, I think, at the end of a season that can linger over into the next year in a demoralizing way. So I think it was huge for you guys to show up and get a win over a Big Ten team, Michigan, in terms of sort of changing the attitude around at the end of the year and straightening things out heading into the offseason. I think that's going to benefit y'all heading into this year.
The Michigan game, watching that game, and we were down, what was it, 16-3, I think it was. And of course they kick a field goal, 19-3, and it seemed like all hope was lost in that game. And I love this team to death. I pull my hair out at times for the way they play, but you can't help but love them on my end. And that game was to me, that game was a very statement game to me. Even when you think South Carolina's down, you still have to put the pedal to the metal, and you got to keep us down. I think that was a very good comeback. A lot of people will say that game, you know, Michigan is just a bad team. Well, if they watch Michigan, they know their defense is top notch.
No doubt.
So, so I think that was a good comeback win, considering what happened throughout the year and considering the 15 practices, the game before the 15 practices in that bowl game with the Clemson game. That game really hurt. It really hurt. And but to come back and win against Michigan and a comeback victory was very big for Muschamp and for the team.
Yeah, I think so too. Now let's move on to the offseason, and I don't want to get into a 20-minute detailed conversation about every single recruit you guys signed, but if there's one or two that you really like, or one or two that you think could have an impact this season, let us know who that might be.
I actually like to carry on Joyner. He's a dual threat quarterback who came in this offseason. A four-star recruit. I saw him in the spring game a couple times. He didn't really play that many times, but when he did get on the field, I wanted to see more of his throwing game. But his running game, I think, is top notch. He's fourth in the state, ninth in his position. I think he has a pretty good ranking myself. I'm very excited for him. But also Hank Manos, a offensive lineman. We have got to get more girth in on the front, on defense and offense, and I think he will bring it. 6'4", 275. I think we really need to push the defense off us and give Jake time to throw and make plays. But on the defense, Rick Sandage, a defensive tackle, 6'5", 285, Concord, North Carolina. I've watched his high school highlights, and he looks good. He looked good, and I'm really excited for him. He enrolls this summer.
Yeah, Georgia wanted him bad.
Yeah, and we were fighting tooth and nail with Georgia to get him.
Yeah.
And thank God he came to us. So it's a very good recruiting class, I think. A lot of people think it's a little under par, but from where South Carolina's been to where we are right now, within 3 years, I think we're off to a very good start.
Yeah. All right, well, I want to get on to the 2018 schedule now. I'm going to pull that up. Before we do, though, just a quick live look into the comments section. Type. Look at him go with the type. Okay, now I have South Carolina's 2018 schedule pulled up. We're going to skip right over week 1. That's Coastal Carolina, and I'm going to assume that we're not going to have any kind of Citadel situation here, and I'm going to chalk this up as an easy win for South Carolina. Any reason I'm wrong there? Yeah. So that, of course, leads us into week 2. But now this game, South Carolina and Georgia, back where it belongs, in my opinion. This game needs to be played in the beginning of the year. It just seems like it has been for a long time, and I understand having to move it for the Notre Dame game last year, but I like having this game early in the season. It sort of gives each team an idea of where they're at in the SEC, and of course the winner gets an early leg up in the East, and the loser is sort of crawling uphill, it seems like, for the rest of the season. So September 8th, Georgia Bulldogs travel to Columbia, a place that's given Georgia some trouble over the last 10 years. Now, historically, Georgia has done okay there, but over the last 10 years, it's been more of an even sort of battle there between these two teams. What are your thoughts on this game heading into the season?
Georgia is definitely going to be the leg up. They're definitely going to get the leg up on this one, and they're going to be picked to win this game, obviously. National championship appearance. Kirby's done a very good job there, and it's going to be a very tough game for South Carolina, but at the same time, just like you said, last season it was a very tough fought game. The score might not have revealed it, but on the field it did. I got to give it to Georgia on this one, to be honest. I'm never going to hope for South Carolina to lose. I'm going to be pulling for them, but this is going to be a very tough game. I got to give that loss.
Yeah, like you said, I think that Georgia, I would assume, would be a favorite here, barring some sort of catastrophic something that happens week 1, which I don't see happening. I think Georgia will be favored here. Of course, favorites lose every single week in college football, and this is not an easy place to play. I've said multiple times on this show and other places that I think, as far as Georgia goes, I think this South Carolina game and in the middle of the year at LSU are the two toughest games for Georgia. So I think it's important. I mean, a win is huge here for either team, no doubt. A loss, however, does not eliminate either of these teams, I don't think, from the SEC East. I happen to think Georgia and South Carolina are probably the two best teams in the East this year. Well, I'll get to that at the end here. But okay, well, we move on then. Week 3, your third straight home game to open the year. You get Marshall at home. Another game Carolina should win. Marshall does have a decent team from time to time, but they should not be competing with South Carolina in Will Muschamp's third year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We're just going to give you a win there. Now, at Vandy, thoughts on that?
Vanderbilt is a very I got to give Vanderbilt credit here. They are very sneaky. That's going to be a very sneaky game. A lot of people look over Vandy. I don't, just because they can surprise you with their offensive ability. I'm going to give the edge to South Carolina on this. But I do think it's going to be close in first, second, but in third, fourth, I think South Carolina's going to pull away.
Yeah, I think it's going to hurt Vanderbilt losing Ralph Webb this year. He's by far their best player over the last 3 or 4 years. Finished in the top 20 all-time in SEC rushing and sort of the leader of that team. I do like Vandy's quarterback, Kyle Shermer. I think he's in the top half of quarterbacks in the SEC. But defensively, Vanderbilt should not be able to stop South Carolina. Vanderbilt didn't have a very good defense last year. I haven't seen anything to make me think it's going to be that much better this year. Unless for some reason South Carolina has a really, really bad pass defense in that game, I can't see Vanderbilt scoring enough points to keep up with a South Carolina offense that I expect to be able to do whatever they want to against a Vanderbilt defense.
And South Carolina's defense, the one thing that I did see in the spring game that I'm a little concerned about is our defensive backs. We really need some defensive backs in the backfield. It's very thin on that side of the ball.
That's a hard position to recruit in general. A lot of college defensive backs take a year or two to, a lot of times defensive backs are high school wide receivers or even quarterbacks in some cases who aren't good enough wide receivers or quarterbacks or running backs or whatever to play that in college, so they end up getting moved to the defensive side of the ball, and it can take a while, sort of for them to learn. Hard to find a true legitimate defensive back out of the high school level that's ready to step in and play. But the only other concern I would have about this Vanderbilt game if I was a South Carolina fan, and this is going to lead us into the next game at Kentucky. We mentioned Kentucky's beat you 4 years in a row. I know every South Carolina fan I've talked to has this Kentucky game sort of circled. It's going to be hard, I think, for other fan bases in the SEC and even to some extent other teams in the media to take South Carolina seriously in terms of being a contender to win the East when you're sitting on a 4-game losing streak to Kentucky. So I don't see Vanderbilt beating you unless for some reason that attitude seeps into the locker room where they're sort of overlooking that Vanderbilt game because they really don't want to lose to Kentucky again. I don't see that happening, but that would be my only concern. And so then that takes us to the Kentucky game, Week 5, which is a second straight road game, which can be a little tricky in the SEC, although Vanderbilt and Kentucky are probably the two easiest places to play on the road in the SEC. Maybe you put Mizzou in that category as well. But talk to us about the Kentucky game. Obviously, you guys need to beat Kentucky.
Yeah, to even have a shot in the East, you got to take care of the teams that you should take care of. And Kentucky is one of those teams that we should take care of, but in the past 4 years we haven't. Bottom line, and it's a game that I definitely have circled. And I think, me personally, this year we will win this game, even though it is away. I think it's too big of a game not to win. It's a game that everybody has circled, even the coaching staff that has circled, that if they want to contend for the East, like Georgia, we've got to beat the teams that we need to beat.
Right. Yeah, if this game was being played tomorrow, I would most likely pick South Carolina to win this game. I just think they're the more talented team. Now, just like with Georgia and South Carolina, we said this too, the most talented team doesn't always win. I mean, that's why they play these games. But at some point, South Carolina's got to beat Kentucky, and if it was being played tomorrow, my money would be on South Carolina. And then you have your 6 straight games back at home now against Missouri. Now, I think Missouri is going to be a pretty good team this year, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they finished 2nd, 3rd, or 4th in the East. They're not going to be my pick to finish 2nd, but I wouldn't be shocked if Missouri went on a run. They got hot the last half of the year after starting out like 1-5 or 1-6, and they won a bunch of games at the end of the year and made a bowl. They got that quarterback returning this year, Locke, who I think is the best quarterback in the SEC in terms of just being a pure passer. This is an interesting game to me. Kind of like Vanderbilt, I'm not a believer in Missouri's defense at all, but Missouri can put up some points, and they can put up a lot of them in a hurry. What are you thinking on this game?
This game, I think we have an advantage because it's home. Drew Lock, like you said, is one of the best, if not the best, offensive quarterback, just in pure throwing. This game is going to be tough because, like I said, I'm very concerned about the defensive backs on defense against this offense, because this offense is going to be I don't think everybody's taking Missouri serious. But it's a game that everybody needs to watch, I think, because of their offense, because they can score so much.
Yeah.
I was very high on Missouri last year.
Y'all shut them down last year.
Yeah, and I was a little concerned about this game last year, and then we come and we shut them down. But like you said, they got their steam midway through the season, and me personally, I think they're going to be very eager to play in this game.
Yeah, I think they're going to surprise some people. I think they'll probably win a game or two they're not supposed to win, and they'll probably lose a game or two they're not supposed to lose. I mean, overall they're not very talented and they're not very deep, but if their offense gets hot, they can really put up some points. And so it wouldn't surprise me for them to beat one or two teams that they're not supposed to. So I look at the first half of the schedule here, and I don't see any way South Carolina loses more than 2. And I think they could very easily go 5-1 to start the season here. I mean, of course, 6-0 is always possible, but without even saying which games would be wins or losses, I would if I was going to bet on a record, I would probably put money on 5-1 on these 6 first games. So I think you're going to start out pretty good. And that
real quick, just highlighting the Missouri game one last time. It's that game is it's going to be a good game, but with Debo coming back this season, and if he stays healthy, with everything we got coming back, it's going to be on our defense in that game to stop them.
Right.
And Muschamp, defensive mind coach, I look for him to find ways to stop him, and I definitely see winning that column.
Yeah. So second half of the schedule starts off with Texas A&M, and that is a home game for you. 7th game in a row without an off week. Your off week comes after Texas A&M. So 7th game in a row, Texas A&M at home. Sort of a question mark, right? New coach, Jimbo Fisher. Don't really know what sort of product he's going to put on the field. So hard to get, I think, a good grasp of what's going to happen here. But what do you think about it?
You nailed it. It's wait and see. But in the overall record, Texas A&M, they own us. We have yet to beat them for some reason. Yeah. And it's a game that we should have won last year, in my opinion, but we dropped the ball on offense. And it's a game that I think we should win this year, and I think we will. But I do think it's going to be close, just because there's so many question marks on Texas A&M in general.
I'm not sold on Jimbo Fisher. I don't think he's a terrible coach. Is he an upgrade over what's his name, Kevin Sumlin? I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe a little. Jimbo had a run with Jameis Winston, but you have a lot of coaches who aren't necessarily elite coaches that get a generational player and are able to make a run. When they're not able to repeat that without that player, it's hard for me to place them in an elite coaching category. I mean, he's got a national title. You can't take that away from him. He's made a college football playoff. You can't take that away. But I'm not sold on Jimbo Fisher. So this is a chance for him to sort of start over at College Station and Texas A&M, and we'll see what they do. Then you get your bye week, and this is an interesting game to me here, one of the most interesting. But you get your bye week, and then another home game, Tennessee. They've never beat Will Muschamp, and forget about that. I just don't think they're a very good team still. On top of that, Jeremy Pruitt's never coached before. I don't see how South Carolina loses this game. Now, of course, we'll know a lot more in October than we know now in terms of picking games. But right now, I mean, coming after a bye week at home against a rebuilding team with a new head coach, I mean, you got to feel good about this game.
Yeah, with everything we have coming back and for what Tennessee has, new coaching staff, players. Tennessee last year, they really fell hard, and it was a very bad. It was a very bad season for them. And
You listen what the general tell you now.
I definitely have a win. I'm like you. I do not see a loss in this in any way. They haven't beat Will Muschamp in, like you said, in 6 years. They, with everything they have, we'll see in the season. We'll know everything about Tennessee by the time this game comes around. But I definitely see a win in this game.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I can't see Tennessee winning.
You listen what the general tell you now.
So that takes us to another 2-game road stretch. Your second 2-game road stretch of the season. You travel to Vandy and Kentucky in back-to-back weeks in the first half of the season, and now you travel to Ole Miss and Gainesville back-to-back in the second half of the season. Ryan, I got you. So Ole Miss, of course, on probation. They lose Shea Patterson, their star quarterback, who transfers to Michigan. People forget Ole Miss even has a team. I mean, that's what happens when you're on probation and ineligible for postseason. And you spent the last decade buying every player you could find just so you could finish 3rd and 4th in the West every year. I mean, that's just what happens. You get what you get, and you deserve every bit of it. With that being said, though, Georgia traveled to Ole Miss a couple of years ago and got absolutely murdered. Now, that was with a first-year head coach, in Kirby Smart, and the wheels fell off in that game early. And Ole Miss is not the team in 2018 that they were in 2016, but it is a road game. It is right before one of South Carolina's rivalry games, with Florida being the following week. Any chance you guys could lose this game? I think you'll obviously be favored here. Any worries about this game?
You basically said it. With Florida coming after them, I do not want South Carolina to overlook Ole Miss and look at Florida. They got to win the games that they're playing at that moment. They cannot look ahead into Florida. If they do, it's going to be a tight game. But if they come out and handle business like they should, with everything we got, with everybody that we have coming back in Muschamp's 3rd year, then we should do all right in this game. But if they look over them and look at Florida, then it's going to be a tight game, and then it's going to be a toss-up.
Yeah. I would probably pick you guys to win that one. Then you travel to the Swamp November 10th. Another sort of Texas A&M situation. They got them a new coach. Now, say what you want about Florida, and Lord knows I have plenty to say. There is talent down there. They are not a 4-win team in terms of talent. Tennessee is closer to a 4-win team talent-wise than Florida is. The wheels just completely fell off for a variety of reasons in Gainesville last year that we don't need to get into here. But the point is, you can't look at Florida's record from last year, I don't think, and just circle this game as a win, especially with it being on the road and in the Swamp late in the year. So whatever they decide to do at the quarterback situation will be settled long before you guys travel down there to play. So, they should be all set in terms of their offensive scheme and all that sort of stuff by November 10th. This is a tricky game. I think at best right now I would consider this game a toss-up for South Carolina. But what are your thoughts on it?
This game is definitely a toss-up to me. Me personally, I think we're going to win, but I think it's going to be a tough fought game. I think
He's a Florida man, Lou.
Type game, because like you said, Florida has a lot of talent, and you cannot look at what they did last year and say, okay, well, we're going to beat them because they went this last year.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do that with Florida. They're a very talented team. They have a lot of talent in that state. We recruit at Florida all the time. And so it's a game that's very tricky. It's a toss-up, but in my opinion, just because of everything we have back, and I know I'm saying this a lot, but with 3 years of Muschamp, I expect to win with against Florida with everything we have coming back. But it's a game that's very tricky.
Never made it as a wise man.
But I do expect a W in this game.
Well, that would be huge for South Carolina. Then you get I don't even know what that symbol is. Is that Central? I think that's Central Michigan.
That's Chattanooga.
Chattanooga. Okay, then you get Chattanooga at home. I mean, you should win that game. I mean, come on, without a problem. Then you travel to Auburn with a lake, Clemson, South Carolina, for the final game of the season, SEC versus ACC. Weekend, you got that game. You got Georgia Tech. You got Florida State, and Kentucky and Louisville all play that weekend. One of my favorite college football weekends of the year, rivalry weekend. It's nothing personal, sir. It's just business. Unless something changes drastically between now and November 23rd, I can't see South Carolina winning this game.
Yeah, I hate to give him credit, but I mean, for what Dabo's done there, you got to give the man his due and his credit. He has built a team there, and back-to-back national champion or playoff champions and playoff appearances. You can't deny what Dabo's done and the talent that he has there. This game, I got to chalk up as an L. It's unless something, like you said, something major happens and South Carolina just comes out guns a-blazing. But this game I see as an L. It's not. I love South Carolina to death. That's my team, but with what Clemson has, I can't see it.
Yeah, and that's not a knock. To say that you might lose to Clemson is not a knock on anyone's team. I don't, what are there, 130 teams? There's about 125 of them that would have no chance against Clemson on most weekends. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. They're just an elite team right now. But I look at this schedule top to bottom, and I have to be serious here. There's really only 2 games on this schedule that I look at and I say I'd be surprised if South Carolina won those games. Only 2. I would be surprised, obviously, if you beat Georgia, and I would be surprised if you beat Clemson. I wouldn't be surprised about South Carolina beating any other team on this schedule. So the question for me then becomes, is South Carolina deep enough, talented enough, disciplined enough, hungry enough to go out and win every single game they're supposed to win and go maybe 10-2? I mean, I see 10-2 as the ceiling here for the regular season. And I don't see any way possible. To me, if you go 8-4, that's borderline bad season on this schedule, in my opinion. And anything less than 8 wins has to be anything worse than 8 has to be a disappointment, I would think, given this schedule here. So I could see anything from 8 wins to 10 wins. I'll split the difference, I guess, and go 9-3. I'll make official predictions over the summer, but I could easily see South Carolina going 9-3 or 10-2 here, winning a bowl game, possibly even winning the East if Georgia totes a couple of, if you go 10-2 and only lose to Georgia, and maybe Georgia loses to Auburn and LSU, you win the East. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I could easily see a 9-3, 10-2 type season with a bowl win. You could easily finish with 10 or 11 wins this year, I would think.
10-2 best case scenario, 8-4 worst.
Right.
I expect the 10-2, and the Clemson game, we might not win, but I do expect them to play closer this season than the past 2. They should play closer than what they're doing than what they did last season. I was very disappointed just how we played in general in that game, but I do expect them to at least compete with them.
Yeah.
But I'm like you. I'm thinking a 10-2, best case, and that'd be a great season, I think, for Muschamp in South Carolina.
I think so too.
That shows improvement, and who can argue improvement?
Yeah. Well, Glenn, I really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to let you go now and take phone calls for a little bit before we end the show today. But again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Keep me in mind over the summer. Once we get all these spring games over with and summer and fall camp kick back up, I'd like to have representatives from these teams back on to sort of talk to us as the season gets a little bit closer. So keep Uncle Lou in mind. I really enjoyed having you today, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Uncle Lou. You have a great day.
All right, you too, buddy. Thank you. Yeah, good morning. And good morning, too.
More phone calls?
Yeah, so you already know now then what time it is and everything like that, which is great. So we'll open up the phone lines. You can give Uncle Lou a call, 706-510-6817. Good morning. You're on with Uncle Lou.
What's up, Uncle Lou? It's your 5-star caller, Ryan, from the comment section, man.
Ryan, what's up, buddy? Now, did you see your T-shirt?
Did I see my T-shirt, like, from the Twitter thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it, man. I love it, dude.
Okay.
I showed my mom and everything, man. This
Okay.
whole family loves that T-shirt, man.
Yeah. Well, you should be getting that in about 7 to 10 days. Those things are print on demand, obviously. I don't just have a stack of 5-star caller shirts laying around with your name on them. So those are print on demand. So it's been sent off to the printer. They're going to get it printed up, and they send it to you. It usually takes about 7 to 10 days, and you'll have it. You there? Don't know what happened there. Don't know what happened there. But yeah, like I was saying, he was the first. He's the first 5-star caller. So his T-shirt, like they say, the check's in the mail. Good morning.
Hey, all right, good deal. All right, I think we lost connection or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but I was saying you should get your shirt in about 7 to 10 days. You're the first official 5-star caller on the Uncle Lou Show. You there? You there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
What was it? I wanted to get your thoughts on the championship game tonight in basketball.
Well, I picked Villanova to win it all last weekend. Of course, my original pick before the tournament started was Duke. They got eliminated in the Elite Eight or whatever it's called. So once it got down to the Final Four, I picked Villanova. They did beat Kansas, and it wasn't even close. So we got Villanova versus Michigan. I had picked Loyola to beat Michigan, so I was wrong there. So I have to stick with Villanova at this point. They'll probably be I haven't looked, but they're probably a considerable favorite over Michigan. Michigan, not going to call Michigan lucky, but they haven't even played a top 5 seed the entire time in the tournament. It's just sort of how it went for them. Higher seeds got knocked off by other teams. So Michigan hasn't even faced a top 5 seed. So Villanova is going to be by far the best team that Michigan has seen. And so I feel pretty good with my pick of Villanova.
Yeah, I think so too. I had Kansas winning it all, but the way they played Villanova on Saturday, boy, I was ashamed I picked them.
Yeah, they got ran out of the gym. It wasn't even close.
But let me say something real quick.
Go.
What was it? You said something about like doing the 5-star callers, like per month or whatever.
Right.
Man, hey, I'm a 5-star caller whether I get on here or not, baby. Let me tell you why. You know why?
Why?
Because I talked to Lou Jr. the other day, whether you may know or may not know, and I told him, I said, hey man, I'll make you a deal. I said I will call every show, every time, if you run into Athens Stadium and go get me them freaking cool ass shoulder pads that y'all got. Don't get me wrong, as a Bama fan myself, I love the belt. I think it's pretty cool. But them shoulder pads, man, are something ridiculous, man. I tell you what, I love them. I seen them. I was a wrestling fan growing up, and I seen them shoulder pads on some type of wrestler. I don't know. I forgot like his name.
The Road Warriors. The Road Warriors. The Road Warriors wore those shoulder pads.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I remember them from. And I thought I just fell in love with them.
Yeah, I like the shoulder pads too. And you mentioned y'all having the championship belt. Let's just be real. Anything's better than that stupid ass trash can that Butch Jones had out at Tennessee.
They literally told us what type of season Tennessee was going to have.
Right? That was some serious foreshadowing there when they was toting that trash can around, because that's a garbage program and with a garbage season last year for sure. All right, Ryan, I appreciate the call. I'm going to cut it a little short today so I can try to get some other callers in, okay? But I appreciate the call. The interview with the Carolina fan went kind of long, so I'm just not trying to be rude there, Ryan. I'm just trying to let a few more callers get through before we have to end it today. I'm pretty sure you understand. If not, you can run to the comment section and do your type. Yeah, I know what you can do. But you won't do that because you're a 5-star caller and good people. So call Uncle Lou, 706-510-6817. And I think we have the ultimate troll on the hotline here, if I can pull him up, which I'm trying to do right now. Good morning. You're on with Uncle Lou.
Uncle Lou, the ultimate troll here.
Good morning, sir.
Uncle Watermelon, the ultimate troll, is back. I'm a 5-star caller, and you know it. I'm on spring break this week, so I have plenty of time to troll you. Stop trolling me, Lou. Anyway, today I want to talk about Auburn and how great we are. You keep saying that Hot Rod is the best kicker and player in the country. Have you not seen Auburn's kickers over that last 10 years? Cody Parkey, our worst kicker in the last 10 years, is better than Hot Rod. Daniel Carlson, who is going to the NFL this year, finished 3 years in a row for the Lou Groza Award. And guess who is our kicker next year? Anders Carlson, Daniel's brother. He might be even better than Daniel. Lou, now I'm going to turn it over to the ultimate troll. Here he is now.
All right, you got that, Lou?
I got all that, sir.
I don't want to hear anything else about how Hot Rod is a great kicker. He's not bad. Auburn kickers are better. I can name 5 kickers in the country better than Hot Rod.
Well, no, you can't. But you know what's funny to me? Actually hilarious to me?
What? I mean, hang on. Besides your hairline, what else?
This is hilarious to me, okay? You are such a typer troll. Having to call into a show and actually talk gives you such fear and anxiety. And you're such a typer troll that even when you call in, you have to use a text-to-speech app so that you can type what you want to say instead of actually just getting on the phone and saying it. Because I guess when you type, you must not drool when you type. You drool when you talk, we can tell, because every time you call in and try to say anything, it's pathetic and sad. So do you drool when you type?
Well, damn it, Louie, you know, you're over there trying to roast me now, bro. No, I don't, first. I type because, you know, I can. Type. Watermelon.
All right, on that note, I'm going to let you go back to the watermelon.
Wait.
Back to the watermelon jokes again. I had enough of those. You got to come up with a new line. The watermelon thing just not working for you anymore. But yeah, unbelievable that a typer troll would call up, but then use a text-to-speech app to speak what he wants to say instead of actually saying it, so he doesn't have to drool all over him. Good morning. You're on with Uncle Lou. Yeah, you're on with Uncle Lou.
Hi, Uncle Lou. It's been a very long time. How are you doing there, buddy?
Doing good, but go ahead and introduce yourself when you call in so that we know who the hell you are.
I was that Auburn fan that's been calling you, periodically, every couple of weeks, Jacob.
Yeah, do you have a name, or is your name that Auburn fan?
You can just call me that Auburn fan. That's not the one before me.
Okay.
He's not a true Auburn fan.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, this is that Auburn fan. What can we do for you today, that Auburn fan?
I got a question about our schedule, because I've been looking over it.
Okay.
I don't think we have a... Yeah.
Stop trolling me!
Is there any way you could pull up a picture so I can just look at it?
Auburn schedule?
Yeah.
No, I don't have it saved on this program that I use, so no, I can't pull it up. But maybe we can find an Auburn fan that just knows the schedule. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to ask you a question. Do you think we could go maybe win the West?
Win the West? I think it's possible. I think you'll be picked second. That doesn't mean you'll finish second. You were picked second last year too, and you won the West. So I think if you're picked if you're picked second to win the West, that means you're a pretty good team and have a shot to win it. Obviously, Alabama's going to be the favorite in the West for the foreseeable future. I mean, that's not breaking news, but that doesn't mean they're going to win the West every single year, and we saw that last year. So I think you'll have a shot.
Oh, that's great news. I have a recollection of who we play. I mean, we go on the road like so much this season. There are barely any home games.
Well, the thing with Auburn's schedule, especially as it pertains to Georgia and Alabama, is it's always home or away. And last year you had your home with Georgia and Alabama. This year you have your away. So you're going to play in Athens. Then you get a high school team at home in Auburn. And then you got to go to Tuscaloosa. In my opinion, it's going to be almost impossible for Auburn to win both of those games in a year when they have to play them both on the road. So, I mean, you could split them this year, maybe. I think you'll probably be an underdog in both of those games, but I do think you could split them. But it would be hard for any team in America to beat Georgia and Alabama on the road in a 3-week period, I think. Am I wrong? Yeah, the Trolls are undefeated, no doubt about it. You also play Washington week 1. What do you feel about that game? Washington Huskies. You played them week 1.
Who do they have again, other than a quarterback that's actually pretty good?
They have a good quarterback. Their running back is really good, too. His name escapes. Gaskins, is that his name? Or that might be Ohio State's running back. Anyway, they've got a good running back, and, of course, they've got Jake Browning. A good quarterback. And their defense, they had the #1 run defense in America last year, but they play in the Pac-12, so you got to take that with a grain of salt.
I really think they're not that big of a problem. I think South Carolina could beat Washington any day of the week.
I agree. I think Washington runs through the Pac-12 because they've got a pretty good coach and a good offense. Washington, in my opinion, would have 3 or 4 losses a year in the SEC, even with the good teams they've had over the last couple of years. When they played Alabama in the playoffs a couple of years ago, they couldn't even get a first. I mean, they just couldn't move the ball at all, and they couldn't stop Alabama. Ended up losing, I think, 34-7. Wasn't even a close game. So I don't see any way Auburn loses this game. I think Auburn wins.
So we win at Washington, which is a really good win since they're already going to be in the top 10. I know we play a relatively easy schedule.
You get LSU at home now because, of course, we all remember that loss you had. You were up by 21 or 24 points or something at LSU, and they came back. So you get them at home. So if you can beat Washington and LSU, you play both of those teams in the first half of the season. If you can beat both of those teams, then you should be 6-0, 7-0. And then you got games against teams like Mississippi, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Arkansas. Auburn is more talented than all of those teams. I mean, Auburn will be more talented than any team they play with the exception of Georgia and Alabama. And there's not a huge talent gap between those 3 teams. I mean, those 3 teams are the 3 most talented teams in the SEC, and it's not close. So you should be 6-0 if you get past Washington and LSU, and then your back half of the schedule is easy, except for the very end when you have to go to Athens and to Tuscaloosa.
Okay, do you think that maybe last year was just a stint and that Gus Malzahn might be fired, say, in the coming years?
I don't see any way he gets fired this year because they just gave him that huge raise. He's making $7 million a year now. I think that's completely ridiculous that they gave him that raise and extension. I'm not a believer in Gus Malzahn, but as a Georgia fan, I love the fact that he's going to be in Auburn for a while because of that big raise. But because he beat Georgia and Alabama last year in the regular season, I think that buys him a couple of years now. So even if he were to lose to Georgia and Alabama again this year, I don't think there's any chance he gets fired this year.
Yes, Uncle Lou. Well, thank you for your time. I know it's past your usual streaming, so I'm going to let you go, Uncle Lou. I'll call you.
Okay, I appreciate that. That was that Auburn fan calling, talking about the schedule. I need to have an Auburn guy on and do 20 or 30 minutes at the beginning of the show and just run through that schedule. They do have an interesting schedule, but yeah, they have to play at Georgia and at Alabama in a 3-week period at the end of the year, and that's not easy. That wouldn't be easy for anybody in the country. That's one of those things. It's not an insult to Auburn if you say, I think Auburn's going to lose those 2 games. It would be hard for any team to beat both of those in back-to-back weeks. And you know what else? 1 phone call per show. This ultimate troll here, he just won't quit calling. I mean, look, ultimate troll. He just keeps calling and calling and calling and calling. You already called once and got through, sir. Now you're just clogging up the phone lines for everyone else. And that's just really not fair. So nice try, but come on, let's limit it to 1 phone call per show so we can give other people an opportunity to get in. If that makes you mad, you know what to do. Anyway, I'm going to end the show. We have another live show tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. It's totally different from this one, so make sure you check that out. We do that one at Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern every week. This show we do every Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, I post pointless, barely watchable videos all throughout the week. I want to thank everybody for watching, everybody in the comments section, everybody that's watching live, and everyone that watches later after it's uploaded to YouTube. Thank you to those of you that donated to the show today. I did write your names down. If I missed anybody, email me, crazyunclelou@gmail.com, and let me know, and I can go back and look. But I got Ryan and Alan down. Thank y'all. So y'all did get entered in the T-shirt giveaway. If you don't know what I'm talking about, every dollar that you donate through the Super Chat button located on the bottom of the chat, it's the $. Every dollar that you donate through there gets you entered in a raffle to win a free T-shirt. Once we get 30 or so entries, we draw the T-shirt. T-shirts, by the time you pay shipping and all that, are about $20 or $25. So it's not like I'm making a killing on them. It's a way for you guys to get an opportunity to get a shirt for a lot less than having to buy it off of the store. But if you do want to buy one off the store, links in the description. The Uncle Lou store, you can look around. There's, I don't know how many different T-shirts and hats and stuff are in there, but there's several of them. So thanks to everybody that watched. Thanks to everybody that called. The callers make this show. I know sometimes y'all call in and I give you a hard time, but that's just sort of the way this show goes. And I know you guys don't take it personal, and that's what makes the show entertaining to me anyway. So thanks to everybody that called. Sorry if you tried to call and couldn't get through. Hopefully we can get to you on Wednesday. Thanks to the Typer Trolls in the comments section. Thanks to everybody that watched. Thanks to everybody that watched later. Have a great day and an even better morning if you can. And Uncle Lou will see you live Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. You listen what the general tells